and welcome to Jubilee Circle. Two, three, four. We have been weighed down by sadness like a stone. We have yearned, we have yearned. We have sometimes felt so utterly alone. While we turn, we've been stricken by the wonder of it all. Stricken down, stricken down. We have sometimes felt so faint we want to fall. Overcome, but all in all, I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? We have raised our fists in anger and we tried to work it out, that we need each other, we cannot deny. There is no doubt, there is no doubt. So let us weave another dream in outer space while we're turning, on this planet home that holds our human race. We are still learning, but all in all, I'd say this year in flight together has been a good one. What say we make one more circle? One more circle around the sun. Oh yeah. All right, welcome everybody. What do you say? One more circle around the sun?
Heck yeah, 2022.
Let's do it. Why not? Absolutely. I know the last two circles around the sun have been a little trying, but we're going to try again. Make this year the very best that we can. Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So today we are wrapping up our holiday mini-via that we call AHSCKNYE. We have been celebrating the season of Advent, Hanukkah, Solstice, Christmas, New Year's, and Epiphany. And our theme for this via has been ordinary miracles. We've been talking about ways that we can encounter miracles in the mundane and ordinary times of our lives. So according to the Christian calendar, January 6th of every year is a celebration called Epiphany. It marks the announcement of the birth of Jesus to the Magi, or the wise men, which was the first time that Christ was made manifest to the Gentiles. It also commemorates the recognition of Jesus' divinity during his baptism and his first miracle at Cana, where he turned water into wine. Now, the word epiphany, it comes from this combination of Greek and Old French and Latin, and it literally means to reveal. We often call flashes of insight that we have an epiphany, where suddenly we know something that the moment before we didn't know. You don't know where that came from. It's an epiphany. It's a manifestation. So Christ's epiphany into the world was a revelation that we all carry the spark of divinity within us. from our birth, just like Jesus, we have been granted an intimate connection with the divine. In these human suits we walk around in, we often forget that we are divinely connected to the holy. So epiphanies remind us that there's something more going on here than just our little egos running around setting fires and disturbing the world's peace. So Epiphany is a time, like every single day, is a time to remember our unity, to remember who we truly are. We are God's beloved children. We remain united with one together in the mind of God, even if we appear out here in this world to be divided and separate and in disarray. So what if, jubilants, the Epiphany is so powerful that it could serve as our guiding light in this world, taking us to the places that the holy would have us be so we can learn to embody the light of love in this world? What if this year we all dedicated ourselves to a year of Epiphany living, which means we ask Spirit to guide every step in every moment of our lives instead of relying on the ego's schemes and plans? So if you're up for it, I'm willing to bet if you dedicate yourself to Epiphany living this year, the two words you'll say a lot this year will be, oh yeah. Please rise as you're able. And we begin, as we do every celebration, by remembering the four elements: the air and the water and the earth and the fire. And we burn black sage as a reminder to set our intentions. And here in this new year, this is the moment. This is the moment to set your intention for right now. It's the moment to set your intention for this year. It's the moment to set your intention of who you will be, what you will embody in this world. And we also orient ourselves in this sacred time and space by calling the four directions. I invite you to turn and face the east. As this new year dawns upon us, I invite you, jubilants, to become aware of this present moment. Feel the floor beneath your feet, the breath in your lungs, the air that is lightly touching your body. Orient yourself, jubilants, in this time, in this moment, and give thanks, because this moment is truly all that is available to us. So Epiphany living calls us to orient ourselves in each present moment, to be open and aware, and be willing to be led only by Spirit. Quarter turn to the right, and we face the south. As this new year dawns upon us, I invite you to become aware of what is around you in this moment. The sights, the sounds, the people, the aromas. Take in everything your senses bring you and give thanks. This is the holy moment where the universe has placed you. I invite you, jubilants, to give up all your grievances about wherever you are and simply appreciate that you are right here and right now. Quarter turn to the right, and we face the west. As this new year dawns upon us, I invite you to close your eyes in this moment. Close your eyes. Become aware of the darkness. Most often we inflict darkness on ourselves because we close our eyes to the suffering, not just of ourselves, but the world around us. In this new year, jubilants, may we resolve to remain awake, to keep our eyes open, and truly see the innocence, the belovedness of ourselves and everyone around us. Quarter turn to the right, and we face the north. As this new year dawns upon us, I invite you. This is all physical today. Wrap your arms around yourself. Give yourself a big hug, because this pandemic has deprived so many of us with contact with one another. It becomes easy to feel isolated and separate from the rest of the world. So as you hug yourself tightly this morning, extend that contact and connection to everyone around you in this room, everyone around the world. And in this new year, in this embrace, may we remember our unity, our connection to God and others and creation. And as we turn back toward the center, Epiphanies only happen in the present moment, jubilants. So I invite you to be here right now. Whether you're in the building or you're watching out there at home, truly be present in this moment. Let us breathe deeply. And give thanks. Give thanks for the life that flows through all of us in this moment. Because when you can be thankful to just be here right now, then all you'll know to say is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. All right. Good morning, Reva. Good morning, baby. I'm coming around. Good to see you. All right. And the humidity is showing up. All right, let me sage these guys. Coming back around. All right, band, sage from afar. All right.
We get it.
Remain standing. We're going to open up with a little bit of classic from the Byrds. Bruce and I have our guitar twinsies today.
Yeah. It's Rick
His has
and
6
Bob
more strings than mine, but it's
Central.
basically the same guitar. He brought his to rehearsal.
Times harder to
Yeah, 6 times harder to tune. So we thought he brought his to rehearsal, and I'm like, I'm going to bring mine on Sunday. My Rick never gets to go out anymore, so here he is. Yes, New Year. If you are watching out there in virtual land, you can go to jubileecircle.com and download a bulletin. And if you want to download it here in the room as well, you've got readings and lyrics and everything you need to follow along this morning. So, all right. y'all may be seated. All right, so welcome everybody to Jubilee Circle. We are an inclusive, progressive interfaith community here in Columbia, South Carolina, broadcasting around the world. We teach the timeless common wisdom of love and unity that is found in all mainstream religions, in metaphysical philosophies, in mysticism, and inspired secular and religious writers and teachers throughout the ages. We use popular music, obviously, weekly celebrations, educational and artistic events. We use other community building activities like Soundy School. How was Soundy School this morning, y'all? Was it great? I hear it was great. So join us for Soundy School, too. We'll talk about that in a minute. And we also, we're doing all of this to create a space so everyone can experience their own spiritual transformation, so then you go out and become the source of transformation in the world. And we believe that we're all here to expand our souls, to find a deeper meaning in life, to renew our commitment to love and peace and justice, to learn how to love wastefully and undergo that transformation from the inside out, to discover how to live more fully into our higher divine self all the time. And we also recognize we're part of God's good creation out here. We're made out of stardust, but we're also formed in love and in joy. And we humans, we forget this. We slide out of the birth canal and they whack us and we just forget that we are all one. We start to see this world as a world of separation and paradox, and we encounter others as someone different from ourselves. And so we start to judge everything. Everything is either beautiful or ugly or good or bad or generous or stingy or loving and obstreperous. I like that word. So let us remember our function here, Jubilance. It is to continually remind ourselves, learn who we truly are. We are all God's children, all still united in the mind of God and put here to be an open channel for love in the world. Oh, yeah. All right, so a few announcements. Coming up next Sunday, we're going to begin our Via Creativa theme. It's called Becoming Light. And we give birth to that creative light of love in the world by being willing to change, be willing to live in a different way and become aware of the world in new and deeper ways and recognize our spiritual growth as that head knowledge becomes heart knowledge, and then we embody that light into the world. And this is a fourfold path that we are going to explore during this Via, and next week we'll use music from Holly Near to explore that first step of willingness. So join us for that. We're also going to swap up the order of celebration next week, so just the roadmap's going to get a little different, but it'll be easy to follow, so you just follow along. We're going to basically, the biggest change is we're going to put the prayer time at the beginning instead of the end, and this week we're going to begin our discussion in the room again. We're going to dismiss our folks out there in virtual land a little early so we can have a little talk in the room, and we've discontinued our Zoom meetings because, well, nobody was showing up anymore. So, so instead of doing that, we're going to move the discussion to here in the room with the folks who are here, which is another good reason for you to join us here in the building. We are all masked and safe and making ourselves as safe as possible here in the room. So please join us if you can. So those are some changes coming up. At the end of this week, on January 7th, this Friday, it is our coffee house and open mic. John and Carrie Scollin will be our opening act at 7 o'clock. The open mic begins at 8, so join us for that. Every Wednesday at 7:30, Lee McEachern leads our informal discussion group on A Course in Miracles. Join us for that. Monday, January 10th, we're going to start Meditation Mondays. I'm going to lead a 6-week workshop to introduce y'all to some various forms of meditation. Everybody goes, I can't meditate. My personal excuse was, I fall asleep. I can't meditate, I fall asleep. So I looked at all these different ways to do meditation. And so there are ways to do meditation that you don't fall asleep. There's chanting, there's mantras, there's all sorts of ways. There's walking meditation. You can't fall asleep that way. And if you can, more power to you. So join us starting Mondays at 6 o'clock right here. I'm going to offer a hybrid on this, so I'll put a Zoom link up if folks want to join us remotely. But if the remote isn't well attended, then we won't do that. But please come into the building if you can and join us for that. Tell us what happened at Sunday School, because I wasn't in there because I had to be doing this.
Someone want to share?
Yeah, so someone want to share what Sunday School was like? So Sunday School is next door. Tricia has a sound healing studio setting up. And so what did y'all do this morning?
So we did a little chanting, and we did sacral clearing through doing our chakra clearing through the singing bowls, and there was a Native American drum for some healing, and gong, and just a time of meditation.
Great. How was it? All right. Everybody had a great time. So at 10:30 on Sunday mornings, we're having Sunday School. So it's in the space right next to Jubilee Circle. So join us for that. It's going to be great. And our yoga instructor, Malika Daniels, will be back in the new year, and we will get her schedule set, and I will share that with you very soon. Am I missing any announcements? We got a lot going on. It's great. All right.
Your masks.
All right. Hear these wise and holy words. From the Jesus story, John 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. From A Course in Miracles, Lesson 71. Only God's plan for salvation will work. The ego's plan for salvation centers around holding grievances. It maintains that if someone else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event were changed, you would be saved. Thus, the source of salvation is constantly perceived outside yourself. The change of mind is necessary for salvation is thus demanded of everyone and everything except yourself. Surely you can see how it is in strict accord with the ego's basic doctrine, seek, but do not find. For what could be more surely guaranteed that you will not find salvation than to channelize all of your efforts in searching for where it is not? How can you escape all this? Very simply, ask the Holy very specifically, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? And from Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment, what would happen to me if I just inwardly surrendered my resistance and let the flow of life be in charge? The rules of the experiment were very simple. If life brought events in front of me, I would treat them as if they came to take me beyond myself. If my personal self complained, I would use each opportunity to simply let him go and surrender to what life was presenting me. This was the birth of what I came to call the surrender experiment. These are wise and holy words. Thanks be to the holy. All creation is holy word. All creation speaks volumes of the holy. Hallelujah. Let's stand and sing. And this is the last time we're going to do a hugging song, by the way. That's another thing that's changing next time. You'll still get a chance to hug or greet one another in a socially distant and proper way, but enjoy this one while we do it. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Standing on a planet, breathing in the atmosphere. Waves vibrating in the air are beating on my ears. Invisible forces are holding me down. I am spinning faster than the speed of sound. I'm being bombarded by electromagnetic beams, flying through my body, shining red and blue and green. 100 million signals racing through my brain. I guess it must be just another ordinary day. An ordinary may be seated. All right, our song this morning comes from singer and songwriter Jason Mraz. This song is called Living in the Moment. It comes from his 2012 release, Love is a Four-Letter Word. You ready? All right. 2, 3, 4. Do-do-do. 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 If this life is one act, why do we lay all these traps? We put them right in our path when we just want to be free. I will not waste my days making up all kinds of ways to worry about all the things that will not happen to me. So I just let go. What I know I don't know, and I know I only do this by living in the moment, living my life, easy and breezy, peace of my mind, peace of my heart, peace of my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm living in the moment. If you're at all like me, and I know some of you are, whether you want to admit it or not, you've made New Year's resolutions that have lasted, maybe a few weeks into the new year, maybe a month or so at best, right? Come on.
30 seconds.
I'm not 30 seconds. I'm not saying.
Mine ended this
I am
morning.
not alone. Yours ended this morning? Okay. So my resolutions, they've always been fairly predictable. Lose a little weight, find a little more money, get organized, learn a new skill, or at least keep up with the ones I have, right? This year, though, I'm making a different resolution. Sure, I'd like to lose a little weight. I'd like to fatten the bank account. I'd like to be able to find stuff when I need it. I'd like to play guitar better or just at least keep up the current level of skill. But it occurs to me, though, all of those resolutions, they're seeking to change things outside of myself. All right, weight is on the inside, but it does depend a lot on what I put into it from the outside, right? So this year, I'm going to take a hint from author Martha Beck and resolve to make changes from the inside out. Beck says that her one resolution this year is to work on her amygdala. That's a great resolution.
Good luck.
Yeah. This is an ancient, your amygdala is a very ancient, tiny piece of your brain, and that is where your fight or flight reaction lives. It's not verbal, but it reacts to sights and senses and sounds that trigger us. So whenever she gets triggered, Beck says that she takes a non-judgmental observer stance for her feelings. So she dispassionately describes whatever is happening, such as, I feel a rush of heat on my neck. My heart is beating faster. I feel a pain in my chest. And she continues watching and describing that anxiety until things start to change. The fear, she says, will begin to soften. The tightness in your chest releases. Your heart slows down. And then she says, you have a little conversation with your amygdala. You point out to it that things changed. You're not stuck in that story of fear. It's not your reality. It's simply a trigger, and you're using it to just create more fear and more anxiety. I've been using Beck's method on my own anxiety, and it is a handy trick when I get stuck in that cycle of worry and fear and despair. It works. I've done it. I've slowed my own heartbeat. I have been breathing more deeply, and I say to my amygdala, look, there is not a bear in the room. You're okay. There's nothing here to be afraid of. Stop making stuff up. So Beck's method, it reminds me a little bit of what A Course in Miracles counsels us to do every morning. To remember that our plans in this world don't work because they're based on the ego's fear. The ego's motto of seek but do not find. We're afraid, though, that we're not going to find our purpose in life. We're not going to advance in our job. We're not going to find the right mate or achieve the success that we have been searching for. We keep following the ego's plan. Seek, but do not find. Oh, and yeah, we have some success and joy in this life, but whatever we do, whatever level of success or happiness we achieve, it's never enough for the ego. There's always the next plan, the next dream, the next get-rich-quick scheme to follow that ends up in the same place, leaving us just still wanting more over and over again. The ego convinces us that if something outside of ourselves would just change or go away, we would finally be happy. And all of that, all those plans that the ego comes up with, they sound really fabulous. But they never pan out as planned. The only way to break the cycle of the ego's relentless need for more is to do what Beck suggests. Become the observer of your own life. So when the ego gets disgruntled, when it gets restless, instead of jumping on its latest idea to make you more popular or more money or lose weight or whatever, bring you fame and fortune, instead sit with the idea like it's a child who's telling you their grand plans. Be the observer. Hear them out. But don't immediately satisfy its desires, because the ego will take you on a million wild goose chases. That's its purpose. Or it convinces us to force ourselves into a new job or situation or relationship because it has a lot of attractive reasons on why it might be good for us in some way, but it's going to end up, I'm telling you, you're going to end up in the same not enough hangover a few weeks or months or even decades later. Jubilants, there's a better way. There's a better way to live. It involves becoming that observer, watching your ego spin and dream and connive all of its plan, and then gently turning all of it over to Spirit. Because when you do that, Spirit will make it clear what you need to do in every moment of your life if you're willing to just ditch the ego's planning and scheming, and live that life of epiphany. That life that trusts every moment to manifest whatever it is you need to be doing, saying, or being. A Course says we can live this way by every day asking Spirit 3 simple questions. And during the day, when we feel the amygdala being triggered, we go back to these 3 questions. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? Jubilants, this is my resolution this year, to ask these 3 questions every single day and just see what happens. I'm not making any plans other than, the work I got to do or whatever. But I'm not making any grand plans. I just want to ask these 3 questions. What should I do? Who should I talk to? What should I say? So instead of asking the ego those questions, I'll ask my higher divine self. This is what it means to live in the moment, Jubilants, to place ourselves so fully within the flow of life that we trust Spirit, to put us in the places we're needed, to speak the words of love that are required, and be the presence of love to the people who need to feel God's love through us. And this is the first time in a long time that I have been jazzed about the prospect of a New Year's resolution. So I invite you to consider playing along with me this year, to keep these questions in the forefront of your mind. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? And simply be open to where the Spirit may lead you throughout the day. Breathe deep. 2, 3, 4. I'm letting myself go for things I've done. I let my past go past, but now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, and I believe this way can lead us moment, I need a drink. Oh, the Life Giver coffee. I admit that my resolution this year is inspired by author and teacher Michael Singer, who wrote a book called The Surrender Experiment. And he writes that he wondered what life would be like if he just dropped his feelings of resistance and went wherever the flow of life happened to take him. His challenge to himself was simple. He writes, if life brought events in front of me, I would treat them as if they came to take me beyond myself. If my personal self complained, so beyond myself, beyond the ego, and so if his personal self, if his ego complained, he said I would use each opportunity to simply let him go and surrender to what life was presenting me. Now, life for Michael Singer has been really incredible. In his younger years, he fell in love with meditation and solitude so much that he bought this little plot of land in Gainesville, Florida, to build himself a cabin so he could isolate and be alone and meditate all the time. Eventually, a community began to gather around him, and he initially resisted this. But now, that little plot of land has become a sprawling spiritual center known as the Temple of the Universe. And Singer himself gained his fortune by writing medical software and starting a company that was eventually bought by WebMD. His life also brought him trials in the form of a RICO investigation into embezzlement at his company, but he also accepted whatever fate might bring, and he used his time away from his company to write his first New York Times bestseller called The Untethered Soul. Now, jubilants, when I first read Singer's books many years ago, I marveled, how can such a life be possible? I mean, how magical is all of that? Even when he's sitting there with the prospect of going to jail for a long, long time, he's writing a book. What would we be doing? I'd be sitting there going, dear God, don't let that, oh my God, I would just be a ball of anxiety. But no, he's like, oh, well, if I go to jail, that's what life brings me. And then whatever I'll do in jail, I'll do in jail. He was okay with it. He surrendered even to the idea of maybe spending many years in jail. But you know what? I get it now. I had an epiphany about Michael Singer in the last few months. I realized that I had left my ego in charge of the area of life that many people often call your vocation. And the ego had all these schemes, all these ideas, and it had me convinced that I wasn't going to just make money. These things will help you make money, but they'll also help you build a following. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing out here in the social media world? We're going to build a following. Thousands of people will watch your TikTok or your Instagram or on your web page or whatever. Oh, web pages are passé these days, by the way. It's all Instagram and TikTok and blah, 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 blah. Anyway. So I took online marketing classes. I read spiritually based business books. I listened to tons, and I am talking about tons of authors and podcasters teach me how to build a sales funnel and get people into my classes and workshops. Ask me how that worked out. How'd that work out? Yeah, I was exhausted. Welcome to my following. It's good to have you all here.
19 people and 2 dogs.
It's great. It's great. 19 people and 2 dogs. Beautiful. I love it. Ooh, sorry. I love it so much. My ego pounced on me, though. It told me, woo, you are a terrible business person. You're a terrible leader. You ought to just give up, my ego said. And you know what? That's the first honest thing my ego ever told me. And so I took its advice. I gave up. But I didn't give up my vocation as a teacher of God. What I gave up was the ego's plan for salvation. I stopped following its commands to enroll in the next class and find the next right business model and build my following. This year, I'm going to begin my own surrender experiment. I'm not striving for the ego's goals. I'm not following its plan to get rich and famous and popular and powerful. Instead, I'm going to strive for the Spirit's goals, to become more loving, to become more compassionate, to become more generous, less anxious, less fearful, less selfish. This year, I'm going to go back to the beginning, to that place where light was created, back to my Creator. What comes to life through our Creator jubilance is light, and that is all there is. And we are all that light. And when we remember this, then the ego's cries for us to seek anything outside of ourselves that we think is going to make us happy, successful. It just seems ridiculous. There's nothing outside that's going to bring you lasting peace or joy or happiness. Why are we searching anywhere outside of ourselves for what we think we need to do in our lives? We have the light inside. We have the inner Christ star within us that, just like those magi of old, it just beckons us to recognize it, to see it, and then follow it. Because when we do, we find everything we ever need, everything we ever need to do, everything we ever need to be. When we follow the light, when we follow our intention, our higher knowing, then the darkness can never overcome it. And I'm not saying don't make any plans, don't have any desires in this world. What I'm saying is this: hold all of those desires very lightly. Observe them, become the observer, and examine their true source. Because the ego likes to dress itself up as our spiritual side and whisper its longings into our ears. Guide us, lead us astray. It told me, for example, I need to get my teachings out there, build a following, and most definitely charge a fee. But we can see through this deception by its ultimate goals, which are always the enrichment of itself in some form or fashion, whether it's manipulating the world to avoid causing us pain or manipulating it for our own financial gain or admiration. Our spiritual desires, though, they have no hint of manipulation, no hint of personal gain. We're just seeking to live in that higher divine state because our desire is not for worldly gain, but our desire is for what we already have, jubilance. We already have God's ultimate and abiding peace and joy and love. And in this state, there are no anxieties, because once we decide to surrender, all of life becomes a joy. Even the things our ego tells us are chores become transformed. And I'll give you an example. Beth and I own 2 Airbnbs between us, and I used to grumble about being a high-paid maid. Now, though, when a house needs cleaning, my perspective has shifted, which is a miracle. A shift in perspective is a miracle. And now I approach cleaning a house as an honor instead of a chore, because I am preparing a place for other people to come and enjoy a vacation or a home away from home. I don't have to clean a house. I get to prepare a place. And there's joy in that, even while scrubbing a toilet. I'm not coming to your house, Keith. You've got to do your own toilets. Too much joy. That's right. There's only so much joy I can handle, Keith. So many more things have changed in my perspective since I have hit upon this new way of being in the world, and I could be all here all day recounting them to you. Like yesterday when I was helping Beth mend the fence over at her Airbnb, where I'm like, this day is gonna suck. But I went over there, and she's still working on it today, but we got most of it done, and it was not as bad as we thought it was gonna be. So when you get over the resistance, when you change your perspective, it's a miracle how much joy you can get, even in things that you thought were going to suck. So what I really want you to do this morning is to invite you to join me in this year of Epiphany living. I'm following Singer's lead here, and I'm just going to wonder, what would happen to me if I just inwardly surrender my resistance and let the flow of life be in charge? To get me in that flow, I'm going to follow Beck's idea of becoming the observer of my fear and anxiety. And to get me ready to do whatever the Spirit calls for me to do in any given moment, I am using the 3 questions from a course to surrender my will every moment. What would you, Holy Spirit, have me do? What would you, Holy Spirit, where would you have me go? What would you, Holy Spirit, have me say, and to whom? And I am so excited, Jubilants, to see how Spirit might use me, move me, change me during this surrender experiment in my year of Epiphany living. And if it sounds exciting to you, then stay tuned. This is not the only Sunday I'm going to be talking about this. I'm going to be using this as a starting point for my messages in the new year so you can come along on this journey. And I may stumble here and there. I may be tempted to go back to the ego's dreams and schemes, but I will tell you that once you get a true taste of surrender, the ego's manipulations get easier and easier to spot. So I invite you, Jubilants, in this new year, become the observer of your fears. See it for the manipulator that it is and resolve this year to change from the inside out, however that seems possible to you. And I know that when you're willing to live in the moment and become aware of how Spirit is moving in your life, and then that head knowledge migrates downward to become our heart's knowing, and then when all that happens, we become this embodiment of the first light of love's creation throughout the world. And when all that happens, whew, the only thing you will know to say is, oh yeah, I'm living in the moment, living my life, easy and breezy, peace of my mind, peace of my heart, peace of my soul, wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I can't walk through life facing backwards. I tried more than once just to make sure I was the future I'd been searching for. I spun around and hurt no more by living in the moment, living my life, easy and breezy, peace of my mind, peace of my heart, peace of my soul, wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm living in the moment, I'm living my life, just taking it easy, the peace of my mind, I got peace of my heart, I got peace of my soul, wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm living in the moment, I'm living my life, easy and breezy, the peace of my mind, peace of my heart, peace of my soul, wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm living in the moment. Oh yeah. All right. I invite you during this prayer time to consider how this year can be different. And I know, beginning of 2021, we said the same thing. We got more of the same. But I think that's because we just expected that. We didn't know what to expect. And this year, probably don't know what to expect either. But the one thing I do know is that if you change the only world that you can change, which is in here, this world will change. And I'll give you a brief example. I made the mistake on Facebook of actually typing a reply to Joe Biden, to something that he had put in there about, protecting voting rights. And I said, well, you know what to do, so just do it. Stop all this talking, just do the darn thing. You would have thought I had killed babies out in public. I got jumped by all the other side people, all the people who blame Democrats and Biden and blah, 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 blah. And I'll tell you what, There was a moment, I typed another couple of kind of, sarcastic replies. Democrats are the reason we can't have nice things. I'm like, yeah, universal health care and a living wage. I mean, the horror. How horrible would that be? Yeah. But then I had to stop and go, you know what? This is a world I don't live in. I don't live in their world. And I can be thankful that I don't live in their world, but I can also have compassion that this is the world they're living in. I don't understand it. I don't. But it doesn't mean that I need to dehumanize the people who live in that world. It doesn't mean that I should go, God, these are stupid people. But that's what my ego says. But we're all the same. It's not about our politics. It's not about our beliefs. A Course in Miracles says we all have that light. And that in some people that light may be dimmer than in others. But it's there. And our job is to see it. No matter how dim it is. It's to see it and to appreciate it. The only reaction, of course, says to anyone that you meet should be appreciation. And so I showed my appreciation by turning off notifications that anyone had responded.
Yay.
Because I couldn't be in that world. I couldn't be there. That's not the world I want to live in. But if I inhabit my world of love long enough, deep enough, authentically enough, maybe they'll wander into my world and be changed. And maybe they won't. But I will love them no matter what. It was hard. I have built my social bubble so tightly that just stepping outside of it for a moment and just getting all of this anger right at me, I'm just like, whoa, I'm going to go back here because it's nicer in here. But once I can complete that circle of love within myself, I'm still working on it. Self-forgiveness is the first hardest part. But once I know that I am love, that I am formed in love, that I am meant to be love, then this world out here will change. I will be able to go into that world, and I will be able to be love in that world. Can't do it yet. Stepped my toe in and went, nope, not ready. I got more enlightenment to work on. So don't beat yourself up if you stumble. Don't beat yourself up if your resolve is to be more love this year and then suddenly somebody pisses you off. Because that's what the ego's going to do. It's going to test you. So be gentle with yourself this year, Jubilants. Be good to yourself. Love yourself. And then the whole world will enjoy that love as well. the river of this life. I was swimming, seeking comfort. I was resting, ready to find a boulder I could cling to, a stone to hold me fast, where I might let the fretful waters of this river down me pass. And so I found an anchor, blessed resting place, trusty rock I called my Savior, and there I would be safe from this river and its dangers, and I proclaim my rock divine, and I pray to it protect me, and the rock replied, God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild raging rapids and a slow meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage, peaceful sandy shore. God is the river swimmer, so let go. Still I clung to my rock tightly with conviction in my arms, never looking at the stream to keep my mind from tossing on. But the river kept on coming, kept on tugging at my legs, till at last my fingers faltered, I was swept away. So I'm going with the flow now, these relentless twists and bends, acclimating to the motion and a sense of being led. And this river's like my body now, it carries me along through the ever-changing seas and by the rocks that sing this song. God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild raging rapids and a slow meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage, peaceful sandy shore. God is the river swimmer, so let go. God is the river swimmer, so let go. Oh yeah.
Amen.
Right. So, the end of the year has come again. And gone again, yes. And interestingly enough, the really good news is, last year, during the worst of COVID, Jubilee broke even financially. We broke even. And the good news this year is that we spent 6 months in the red and 6 months in the black, and have come out in the black almost $2,000.
Yay!
And that is because of your support. That is the only way any of this has ever happened for the past 2 years. And you know what? It's how it's going to happen again in the new year, is that you give generously, that because you want this place to remain. You want this place to be open. And as we come into this new year and Omicron it's supposed to peak in the middle of this month and go down, and hopefully in the next few months we can have more gatherings here, safely, of course. You know, I think we're going to be wearing masks for a long, long time, and that's okay. We can make that adjustment, and we can be here, and we can gather together, and we still have this space because you have been so generous. And through these past 2 really challenging years, Jubilants have come together and made sure that we have survived, and we are now, in this new year, hopefully coming into a place of doing more than surviving, that we are thriving. We're going to live in our Epiphany year. We're going to let Spirit guide us. We're going to do the things that the Spirit says will move us forward and become what Jubilee Circle is supposed to be in this world. So thank you. Thank you so much for your support in this moment. Thank you for your support in the past. Thank you for your support in the future, because you are the reason that Jubilee Circle is still here, that we are still thriving and serving and doing exactly what Spirit has been leading us to do for these past 12 years. And next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the 12th year anniversary of Jubilee Circle, because January 9th, 2010 was the first service, the first celebration service that Jubilee Circle ever held. And y'all are here 12 years later, so congratulations. Happy birthday, Jubilee. We'll have cupcake or cakes or something sweet and decadent next week as we celebrate. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are going to be a few changes, a few things that we're going to be doing differently in the new year in our order of celebration. But also, one of the things that we used to do before COVID, BC, before COVID, was that in the room after the sermon, we would pass a microphone around and talk to each other. We would talk back, get your thoughts on what you heard and how you're processing it, and if you have any questions that I can clarify or make the water more muddy. Either way, however it works. So what we're going to do now is in the room we are going to have a discussion like we used to. Yay, like the good old days. Yay. What that means for y'all over here behind our cameras is that we are going to wish you a beautiful and lovely week. Again, we always remind you, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, that will be enough. And that is from Meister Akyurt. And we remind you that make this year a year of gratitude, just for no reason at all. Just be grateful for everything. Because everything, as the Apostle Paul once said, everything works for the good, for those who love the Lord. And we are, and when we love the Lord, it means everything works for the good, for those who understand and strive to remember who they are, that we are all part of God's good creation. So, for those of you who are watching us live on YouTube, have a wonderful week. We will see you again here next week, same time, same bat channel, and go in peace. And oh yeah. All right, for y'all.